President Trump wants to fire a Federal Reserve governor, something that's never been done before. Lisa Cook, appointed by Biden, could be removed from America's central bank. Wall Street is panicking. Economists are warning of constitutional crisis. Trump says he needs control over monetary policy. Critics say this is authoritarian overreach that could crash the economy. Today, Sophia and Liam debate the question: is this presidential authority, or the end of Fed independence as we know it? Here's what's happening. The Federal Reserve is designed to be independent from political pressure. Governors serve 14-year terms specifically so they can't be fired by presidents who disagree with their decisions. It's a cornerstone of American economic stability since 1913. But Trump is pushing the legal boundary. He wants the authority to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, citing what he calls poor performance and policies that hurt American workers. Legal experts are divided. Some say the president has implied removal power. Others say this violates the Federal Reserve Act and the principle of central bank independence. Markets dropped on the news. Former Fed chairs called it dangerous. And the question isn't just about one governor. It's about whether any president can control the institution that sets interest rates, manages inflation, and stabilizes the economy. The implications? Massive.
This is terrifying. Not because I love the Federal Reserve. I have plenty of criticisms of Fed policy, but because what Trump is attempting would fundamentally break one of the most important guardrails in American democracy. The Fed's independence isn't some bureaucratic nicety. It's the reason the dollar is the world's reserve currency. It's why investors trust U.S. bonds. It's why we haven't had Weimar Germany-style hyperinflation or political manipulation of money supply. When presidents can fire central bankers for making unpopular but necessary decisions, you get economic chaos. Look at Turkey. Erdogan fired multiple central bank governors who wouldn't lower interest rates the way he wanted. Result? The lira collapsed. Inflation hit 85%. Argentina? Same story. Venezuela? Same story. Every country where politicians control the central bank ends up in economic disaster because short-term political interests always override long-term economic stability. And let's be clear about what Trump really wants. He wants low interest rates even if inflation is rising, because low rates make him look good politically. He wants to juice the economy before elections regardless of long-term consequences. That's not economic policy, that's political manipulation. And it would destroy American credibility overnight.
Sophia, you're acting like the Federal Reserve is some sacred institution handed down from heaven. It's not. It's a government agency created by Congress. And the idea that it should be completely unaccountable to elected officials is actually the anti-democratic position here. Let's talk about Fed independence. Independent from who? From the American people? Because that's what you're defending. A small group of unelected technocrats making decisions that affect every single American with zero democratic accountability. They can crash the economy with bad decisions and face zero consequences. Lisa Cook has been on the Fed since 2022. Under her watch, we've had the worst inflation in 40 years. Families can't afford groceries. Housing is unaffordable. And your solution is, well, we can't touch her because independence? That's absurd. The president is elected by the people. He's accountable to voters. If the Fed is making decisions that hurt Americans, the president should have the authority to make changes. That's called democracy. What you're defending is an economic dictatorship dressed up as expertise. And this market panic you're worried about? Markets panic about everything. They panicked when Trump won in 2016. They were fine. They'll be fine now.
Markets will not be fine when the dollar loses reserve currency status, because nobody trusts our central bank anymore.
The dollar's reserve status is based on the U.S. economy and military, not on whether some Fed governor keeps her job.
It's based on trust. Trust that we don't politicize our financial institutions. That's what Trump is destroying.
No, he's destroying the myth that unelected bureaucrats should have more power than the President of the United States.
They don't have more power. They have different power. That's called separation of powers. That's called checks and balances.
Checks and balances means accountability. Right now, the Fed has power without accountability. That's not balance.
Let me explain what actually happens when presidents control central banks. It's not theoretical. We have decades of evidence. In the short term, politicians always want low interest rates because it makes them popular. Cheap loans, rising stock market, economic growth. Great for elections. But that's how you create asset bubbles. That's how you create inflation. And when the bubble bursts, which it always does, the damage is catastrophic. The Fed's job is to make the unpopular but necessary decisions. Raising rates when inflation threatens, even if it means short-term pain. No politician wants to do that. No president wants to run for re-election during a necessary economic cooldown. That's exactly why we separated monetary policy from political pressure. And Trump's specific complaint about Lisa Cook? He doesn't like that she supported rate hikes to combat inflation. You know what those rate hikes did? They brought inflation from 9% down to 3%. They worked. But Trump doesn't care because higher rates mean higher mortgage costs. And that's politically unpopular. Plus, let's talk about the legal nightmare this creates. The Federal Reserve Act doesn't give the president removal power except for cause, meaning actual misconduct, not policy disagreement. Multiple legal scholars have confirmed this. If Trump fires Cook, it goes to the Supreme Court, creating years of uncertainty about who actually controls monetary policy. That uncertainty alone could trigger a recession.
You keep hiding behind legal scholars and independents, instead of addressing the fundamental question: who should be in charge? The Constitution is clear. Executive power belongs to the president. The Federal Reserve is part of the executive branch. Yes, Congress created it with certain protections, but those protections have gone too far when an institution can literally control the economy with zero accountability. And your inflation argument is backwards. You say Cook's rate hikes worked because inflation came down. But those same rate hikes destroyed small businesses, made housing unaffordable, and put millions of Americans in financial stress. Maybe, just maybe, there was a better balance. But we'll never know because the Fed operates in a bubble with no democratic input. Here's what really gets me. You defend expertise, like these Fed governors are infallible. But they're not. The Fed completely missed the 2008 financial crisis. They called inflation transitory in 2021 and were totally wrong. They've made mistake after mistake. But unlike elected officials, they face zero consequences. Trump is right to push back. The American people elected him to fix the economy. If the Fed is actively working against that with policies that hurt workers, he has both the constitutional authority and the democratic mandate to make changes.
You're conflating accountability with control. Yes, the Fed should be transparent. Yes, Congress should provide oversight. But firing governors for policy disagreements? That's not accountability, that's authoritarianism. And your democratic mandate argument is dangerous. You know what else has democratic mandates? Passing laws through Congress. Trump can't just decree laws into existence because he won an election. The Fed structure is the law. Changing it requires congressional action, not presidential fiat. What Trump is really doing is testing limits. If he can fire Fed governors, what's next? Can he fire judges who rule against him? Can he fire agency heads who investigate him? This isn't about monetary policy. It's about whether any institution can check presidential power. And the answer in a democracy must be yes.
And that's where we disagree fundamentally. You trust unelected institutions more than elected leaders. I trust the American people to hold their president accountable. If Trump makes bad economic decisions, voters will punish him in the next election. But the Fed, they answered nobody. That's not democracy. That's technocracy. And I'll take democracy every time.
So there it is. Presidential authority versus institutional independence. Democratic accountability versus economic stability. Expert technocracy versus elected leadership. The legal battle may head to the Supreme Court. Markets remain volatile. And Lisa Cook's fate, along with the Federal Reserve's independence, hangs in the balance. What do you think? Should Trump have the power to fire Fed governors? Drop your verdict in the comments. Subscribe to Two Takes for more debates on the crises reshaping America. Next up, NYC nurses strike. Workers' rights or healthcare crisis? See you then.